Hi everyone. Alright, let's begin here with an empty scene in 3ds Max. Before we start modeling, let's make sure we're all on the same page with our units. Come up here to Customize, go to Unit Setup. Make sure your display unit scale is set to metric millimeters. We'll be working in real-world units using millimeters for this project. Then go up to System Unit Setup. And again, make sure that the system unit scale is set to 1 unit equals 1 millimeter. Click OK and OK, and now we're ready to begin. First, let's go to our Shapes tab. Under the Splines rollout, we'll click on Arc. Alright, now you can draw an arc real quickly anywhere here on the grid, just as long as you're not near the center of your viewport grid. So up here in the upper left-hand corner, lower left-hand corner, anywhere you want to go, just make sure you're not taking up that center space on the grid. Okay, once you have a spline arc drawn out very quickly, we'll go back to the Modify tab, and we'll go to the Parameters rollout and make some adjustments here. All right, so next to the radius parameter, we want to change that to be 18.0 millimeters. And the from parameter, we want to change that to 250. And the to parameter will change to 180. Okay. So once we have that, hold down Shift on the keyboard and just drag out another copy of that spline. When the Clone Options box pops up, just make sure that the radial tick is next to Copy and not Instance or Reference. We don't want either of those. We want to make an actual copy. Just click OK. And now we have 2 spline arcs in the scene, and they're both exactly the same. But let's go to the one that we just created. Down in the parameters, the only thing we're going to change is the radius. So let's change that radius from 18 millimeters to 14.0 millimeters. Okay, so effectively what we've done here is created one large arc and one smaller arc. So now, to make our life easier later on, let's change the naming conventions of these objects. So click on the larger arc, and I'm just going to go over here to the name and change it to arc large. Okay? And then I'll click on the smaller one, and I'll change that to arc small. Okay? And this will help us later on just to identify these what these splines are fairly quickly. Okay? So now that we have these two splines in our scene, you could just move them anywhere out of your way as long as you have some room to operate here and can get at them fairly quickly. Doesn't matter where they are on the grid. Okay? So the next step now is to go back to the Create tab, and we'll go to our Geometry rollouts, and we'll go down to Extended Primitives, and under Object Type, we'll click on Hedra. And we'll just draw a Hedra in the center of the grid here. And notice I'm in wireframe. We'll change that to default shading and click F4 on the keyboard to reveal edged faces. So now we have our Hedra in the scene. We'll go over to the Modify tab, and we don't need to change anything as long as everything is at the default value. So the family parameter should be tetra, 0 in the P and Q parameters, and everything else should be factory stock, so to speak. Okay? The only thing we need to change here is the radius. So come down to the radius parameter, and we'll change the radius of our Hedra to be 8.0 millimeters. So type that in, hit enter, and then we have our object to work with. Okay? Next step, add an edit polymod to the top of that. And we'll go immediately to our polygon level. Looking at the object from the top, I'll select the left polygon, and then holding down Control, I'll select the right polygon. Okay? Now I'll roll to the bottom. I'll select the top polygon and then the bottom polygon. Okay, so left, right, top, bottom, and what you should have looks like almost like a checkerboard selection on our object here. All right. So holding down Shift on the keyboard, I'll bring up my Extrude caddy. And with those polygons selected, I'll type in a value of 5.0 millimeters for this first extrusion. Okay. And then I'll click the check mark to accept that value. And then do not deselect those polygons. All right, we're going to grow that selection once, hold down Control on the keyboard and click the I button, and that will invert the selection. Okay, so now that we have inverted it, we have these triangular polygons selected. We'll go ahead and bring up our Extrude caddy again. You'll see that it's retained the previous value from before. However, we want to change that. So we'll change it to 8.0 millimeters and go ahead and accept that. So now we have two sets of extrusions done on this object. One is smaller than the other to correspond with our large and small arcs. Okay? So this is what your object should look like so far. All right. So now we have a choice. We can begin on either the small extrusions or the large extrusions. And since we have the large ones already selected, I think I'll start there. So I'm viewing the object now from the left side, and we're going to create an Extrude On Spline procedure. And we're going to create a loop from one side to the other. So this would be our starting polygon, our starting point, and we'll make a loop extrusion over to this polygon. So this would be our endpoint polygon. So once we have that established, we can select our endpoint polygon and just delete it, because we want to weld this extrusion at the end of the procedure, and we don't want any geometry in the middle there. Okay, so we might as well just delete that end face now. All right, so here is our starting point selected. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the Extrude On Spline caddy. You'll want 6 segments in this extrusion, so if your segment's value is not 6, change it to that now. And then we'll click on the Pick Spline parameter, and you'll know that it's active when it has that blue outline around it. And since we're working on the larger extrusions here, I will go ahead and pick the arc large. All right, the larger spline. And you could pick it right here in the viewport. While the pick tool is active, you can pick it here in the viewport, or if you're like me, I like to work in the hierarchy over here, which is why I've given the objects a naming convention that makes sense, so that I can identify them later on in the process. And either way, you can either pick it here in the hierarchy, or you can pick it in the viewport. It does not matter either way. All right. So now this is what it's given us. Okay. And clearly this extrusion is not lined up to the endpoint that we want. So that's not a problem. We'll just hold down Alt on the keyboard, and we'll go ahead and rotate that right around until the edges of our extrusion and the edges of our endpoint extrusion are lined up nicely. Now, it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. However, the closer, the better. So holding down Alt, you could just click on the up and down arrow keys and try to finesse that into place a little bit better. Sometimes that gets tricky depending on your mouse, how accurate, my mouse causes things to go wacky sometimes, so I need a new mouse. But holding Alt does give it that excellent level of precision, and you can see that these are lined up extremely well here, so I'm going to go ahead and accept that value. But before we continue, there's one thing I forgot, and so I'm going to bring up the Extrude On Spline again. All right, now we're going to add a twist in our extrusion, okay? I forgot to do that before, so I will add a twist in now. Okay, so I'll go ahead and twist it, and I think we want a value of 2 in there, but we need to tweak the twist parameter. So we want to start off with a value of 2.0 in the twist parameter, but you can see clearly now that our edges do not line up here again. So holding down Alt again for that finer control, I'm just going to click the up and down arrow keys a little bit. Hold down on it while I finesse that into place here. Okay. Okay. So that's good enough for what we're doing here, and I'll just accept that. Okay, so now we have a twist in there, and you could see the shading problem, so I'll go ahead and apply the smooth 30 to clear that up. Now we have a polygon. Our starting polygon is still in there. If I zoom in, you could see it's selected in red. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. We don't want any polygons in between here because our next step is to go ahead to the border mode and just box select that entire area to select the borders on both sides of the extrusions. And then with those borders selected, I'm going to hold Control on the keyboard while I manually select the vertex icon, and that will give us the vertices, and only the vertices that were associated with our previous border selection, and those vertices will be selected conveniently for you here. Now with these vertices selected, I will bring up my weld tool, and I may need to adjust the threshold parameter here until everything is welded up. You will know it's welded up when you look at the before number, and you'll have 48 vertices, and the after number is 45. And since we know that we want to end with 3 and only 3 polygons on this weld, or 3 vertices, I'm sorry, on this weld, we know that this is then a good weld because the difference between the two is 3, and that's what we want. Okay, so I know that that is a good clean weld. I'll accept that, and I'll just go ahead and apply a smooth 30 to clear up that shading artifact there. Okay, and there we have a nice good clean weld, this time with a twist. All right, so now I'll move on to the next set of larger extrusions down here on the bottom. Again, I'll go left to right. So doing that, I know this is my end point. Go ahead and delete that. Starting over here, I'll once again bring up Extrude On Spline. It's remembered everything, so all I need to do is engage the pick tool. And again, I'm going to pick my arc large. Now I'll just rotate that into place again. Okay. And I'll just give it a little tweaking there, and that is good enough. And you can see it's retained the twist. All right, so we don't have to adjust that. And I'll go ahead and accept that. Now I know I have a polygon in here that is still selected, so I'll go ahead and delete it. I'll click 3 on the keyboard to enter my border mode and just box select the entire thing. All right. Then switch over to vertex mode and bring up my weld tool. It's remembered the threshold from the previous weld. So I went from 63 to 60. I know that's a good weld. I'm going to accept it. And there we have it. So once again, we have shading issues. I'm going to put the smooth 30 on to correct that. And this is the object so far. All right. Now we can move on to our smaller extrusions. I'll start here, turn this around to the front. I'll go left to right again. And these are our smaller extrusions. This is where I'll end. And it's the same procedure. All right, except now, when we bring up Extrude On Spline and we go to pick our spline, obviously, we're going to pick the arc small instead of the larger one. Okay? And you can see that the previous rotation value was actually still valid for this extrusion. It's lined it up very nicely here. I don't even have to really make any changes to any parameter. I could just go ahead and accept that. So that doesn't happen all the time, but here it's happened and I'll take it. So that looks good. I'll go ahead and delete that polygon. And then I'll just go ahead and box select those borders. Switch to vertex level and do my weld. And again, the values have been remembered and it's a good weld, so I will accept that. All right, so now we have this. I'm going to hit smooth 30 again just for aesthetic reasons. And this is our object. Now very quickly I'm going to go ahead and do the last set of extrusions. Okay? So I'll look at it from the right, going from here to here. Really doesn't matter. It's just how I like to do it. And I'll bring up the caddy again. And let's see if it'll be kind to us again this time. I'll click on arc small. It went around to that side. All right, but that's not a big deal. I'll hold down Alt and I'll just rotate it as closely as I can. And just needs a little tweaking there. And that's pretty much perfect. I'll accept that. And you can see the polygon that we will delete. And I'll go ahead to border mode, box select, go to vertex level and weld. Everything looks good there. I'll just smooth 30 that. All right. So here it is. This is our object. The modeling process is all but complete now. All right, just a few more steps involved. Now looking up here, you can see that we have some intersection here, but do not worry about that. If these extrusions are intersecting here, don't worry about it. We're still at our lowest level of the object, and we are going to subdivide. When we subdivide, it's going to provide some separation between these points. So it's going to smooth all this out, and it'll provide the separation we need automatically. So it's actually good that we have a little bit of an intersection there, because we know when we subdivide, it will shrink that up a little bit. All right. All right. So the next step is I'm going to look at the object from the front and rotate it about 45 degrees maybe, or, just enough here to the side where I can see, if you zoom in, you can see that we have all of these edges meeting at a central vertex here, okay? All of these edges are meeting right here in the middle. And this is where we want to begin our selection. We're going to go to edge mode, and we want to select these edge loops that make up this X right here in the center, okay? We're not going to worry about the ones that are vertical. We just want these ones that are in the form of an X. All right, so I'm just going to start here, and I'm going to double click to get that entire edge loop. I'm going to hold Control on the keyboard, and I'm just going to keep double clicking all of these edges that make up the X shape there. All right, now with those selected, I'm going to rotate around, hold Control, and just double click to get all these edge loops. All right, on that side of the object. And then I'll rotate around and I'll see that there are some here that haven't been selected yet, so I'll double click to select those. And rotate around again, and there's two more that haven't been selected, so I'll select those here. And then I'll rotate around, and I think we have them all now. Yes, we do. All right, so all of those edge loops that we need are now selected. So with all of these still selected, you're still in edge mode. We'll go here to the Modifier tab, and we'll bring up our chamfer modifier. Okay? So we want this, now I'm working in 3dsMax 2017. It has a chamfer modifier in the list by default. If you are working in an earlier version that does not have chamfer as a modifier, you will need to do these steps as a modeling procedure with the graphite ribbon. Okay, so you would use chamfer in the graphite ribbon, but we're going to use it here. If you have 3dsMax 2016 or 17, you should have it in your modifier list. Maybe even 2015 with the subscription package would have that here. So we want this, and now we're going to work on as a quad operation, okay, not standard, but the quad, and we're going to change the amount to 3.0 millimeters, okay. Just one segment is all we need, and let's click on the Open Chamfer, and we'll click on the Invert. All right, so this is what we are left with. Okay, so we've given it a 3 millimeter chamfer, and next step is to go ahead and add a shell modifier. Okay, now the inner amount, we're going to give it 2.0 millimeters, and the outer amount 2.0 millimeters. So altogether we have 4 millimeters of thickness so far. We haven't subdivided yet. That'll shrink it a little bit. So we're giving it a generous thickness here, so that if you do decide to take this out as an STL for 3D printing, you'll have a thickness tolerance that should work with most printers. Okay, so we have 4 millimeters as we speak. We'll leave it at that. All right, and we'll go ahead and add. Actually, yeah, we'll go ahead and add an open subdiv modifier next. Now, instantly you could see the changes that that has made to the object. All right, all we need to do now is just change the iterations. I would, if you're just using it as a digital object for design purposes, or you're using it in a scene somehow as a render element, then 2 iterations should be fine. However, if you're exporting this as an STL, I highly recommend using 3 iterations, a minimum of 3 iterations. And you can see how nice and smooth that is. Be sure before you export it that you disable isoline display to give the true view of the edges. Okay, but this is it. And I'll click G on the keyboard just to hide the grid temporarily. And you can see that we have quite the complex object here. Now, you may be thinking, you know, is this actually, once you 3D print this, is it going to fall apart, or, you know, is all this connected? Well, if we go ahead and apply an edit poly on top of that and go to our element level, if I click on anywhere on this object, everything immediately gets selected. If this were separate elements, clicking on any one of the components would only select that component. So this is a full, this is one piece. There's no separate pieces here. Believe it or not, I know it looks like there might be separate pieces, but this is actually all just one continuous piece. All right, pretty cool looking object there, and you could see how the subdivision has provided a tolerance level here. These are no longer intersecting. All right, so just beware on your 3D printer that what your tolerance levels are, and this should be good for most 3D printers, especially if you're using a service like Shapeways with SLS printing. But in some cases, this may be problematic. You may have to fix that for certain printers. You'd have to measure that to see if the tolerance was enough so that it didn't cause a problem, you know, or cause any kind of welding to happen up there when you print. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It was a little bit of a lesson in Extrude On Spline in a more complex way. And we ended up with a pretty cool shape here. But I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to have many more videos coming soon. Also find me on Twitter and Facebook, and let's connect there as well. Okay, well, I hope you liked it, and I will see you again very soon. Thank you.